The Alpha State Capitals. So a few weeks ago, I dropped a video talking about America's Beta State Capitals. Those states where the capital city was smaller than one or more other cities in a given state. Well, it's only right that on this video we look at the other side. States where the capital is the largest, most dominant city in the state, and whether or not those dominant state capitals are in danger of being overtaken by another city in their state. Hit that like button, subscribe if you love the content, and let's look at the alpha capitals of America. The first city on the list is none other than Phoenix, Arizona. In 2020, Phoenix had a population of around 1.6 million, by far the largest city in Arizona. Phoenix is also the largest state capital in the country in terms of city population, with second place Tucson having only 543,000 people and growing at a slower rate. It is safe to say that Phoenix will continue to reign supreme as the dominant city in Arizona. Americans are flocking to this metro in droves. It appears that extreme heat is preferable to extreme cold. Further cementing the dominance of Phoenix is the fact that the next 10 cities other than Tucson in terms of population are all suburbs of Phoenix within its metro area. Phoenix and its suburbs make up over 2/3 of Arizona's entire state population. It doesn't get much more dominant than this. The next state is Arkansas. In Arkansas, the state capital and largest city is Little Rock. In 2020, Little Rock had a population of 202,591, while the second largest city in the state, Fort Smith, only had 89,000 residents. Seems like Little Rock's position at the top is not in question, right? But not so fast. In Arkansas, we have to explore a little further and look at metro populations. And here is where we uncover a challenger. Northwest Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas is a collection of 4 cities in the northwestern corner of the state, anchored by Fayetteville and Springdale as the 2 largest of those cities. As a metro, they had a 2020 population of 546,725, while Little Rock's metro held 748,031 people. Now, Little Rock's metro isn't declining or stagnating like one would believe when Arkansas comes to mind, but its relatively stable growth rate is dwarfed by the blistering rate of growth being seen in the northwestern part of the state. Fueled by the state's flagship university and a certain family whose last name ends in W, they are coming for that top spot. I did a ground tour of the area in a previous video, and if you're one of the many Americans looking to relocate to the south, but not interested in the more popular areas like Texas, Florida, and such that everyone else is moving to, then you might want to take a look at Northwest Arkansas. If current trends continue, then Little Rock might be passed up sometime in the 2030s, but for now it is the capital and king of Arkansas. Next up is Colorado, where the capital and largest city by far is Denver. In 2020, Denver had a population of around 715,000 people, while second place Colorado Springs had 478,000. Denver is already larger and also growing at a faster pace than Colorado Springs. And if you dive into the metro areas, then the difference becomes even greater. I went to Denver for vacation earlier this year, and I have to give credit where credit is due. Amazing food, great nightlife, friendly people, and lots of entertainment, including a great NBA team. Even though I didn't like what they did to my LA Lakers in the playoffs, but we shall get our revenge for that in the 2024 playoffs. Overall, in Colorado, it is not even close. Denver is the capital, largest city, largest metro, and such to the point that when one thinks about Colorado, Denver is the first thing that comes to mind, and the other cities are a mere afterthought. Now, this next state is one that I'm quite familiar with, and it's also one where the capital completely dominates the state, and that is Georgia. In Georgia, Atlanta is the capital and largest city with the 2020 population of over 498,000 people. Columbus, Georgia, home of Fort Moore, formerly Fort Benning, is in second place with 206,000 people. Third place, Augusta, wasn't far behind with a population of 202,000. In Georgia, this is a case where you can't let the city populations fool you. Atlanta is king here, and it has never been in question. The Atlanta metro area, a more accurate measure of its true size, had almost 6.1 million people in 2020, making it one of the 10 largest metros in the country and the largest capital city metro in America. On the metro front, Augusta takes the second spot with 611,000 people. Atlanta happens to be a metro area with a vast geographic area, with miles of suburban cities that in many cases were incorporated as cities in order to avoid annexation by Atlanta proper. In this state, Atlanta is Georgia, and Georgia goes as the Atlanta area goes. Georgia is one of the faster growing states in the country, and the vast majority of its growth is in those Atlanta suburbs. You'll find many a transplant here from the New York, New Jersey metro and other northern cities, along with people from small Georgia towns who relocated to the Atlanta area for better opportunities. Atlanta is the center of Southern American culture, entertainment, and history. Its reach and influence extends outside of the state, as some would say the southeastern U.S. revolves around Atlanta. Despite a few upstarts like Nashville and Charlotte, Atlanta is still by far the place to be when it comes to what is traditionally considered the South. Beware of the traffic if you're thinking of moving here, though. It has some of the worst in the country, and the city nor state government have any answers on the table. As its population continues to explode, it is only going to get worse. Next up is the island state of Hawaii. There is no surprise here. The answer is Honolulu. Does Hawaii even have any other cities besides Honolulu? Upon further research, it actually doesn't. Honolulu is consolidated with the city and county of Honolulu, meaning that Honolulu itself is not incorporated as a city either, but instead is a census-designated place within Honolulu County. Honolulu County consists of the entire island of Oahu and several outlying islands. This makes Hawaii unique in the sense that it is the only state with no incorporated cities. Despite this, the unincorporated Honolulu still serves as the county seat and state capital. Also, with over 70% of the state's population living in this county, it is safe to say Honolulu is the place to be in Hawaii. I do hope to visit soon. Up next is the potato state of Idaho. Here, the capital and largest city is Boise. In 2020, Boise had a population of 235,000, while second place Meridian at 117,000, and Nampa was just behind it with 100,000 people. Being that both Meridian and Nampa are a part of the Boise metro area, which had a total population of around 764,000 people, it is safe to say that Boise dominates this state. However, it's interesting to note the growth rate of second place Meridian. Even though Boise itself is growing at a rapid rate, the growth in Meridian is on another level. It has grown from only 9,500 people in 1990 to over 117,000 today, making it one of the fastest growing cities in the entire country. It slowed down a little on the 2020 census, but still is far and away more than Boise and most other American cities. It will be interesting to see if it continues to slow down a bit, or if the gap with Boise continues to close. Could we be looking at twin cities of Boise and Meridian in the future? We shall see. But for now, Boise is king of Idaho. Moving on, we have the crossroads of America, which is Indiana. Indianapolis sits at the center of the state with a population of 887,642, while second place Fort Wayne had 263,000, and third place Evansville came in with 118,000. Indianapolis is the clear center of gravity for the state, and its metro area is also the fastest growing. Even looking at the map, all the major highways cross in Indianapolis and radiate throughout the rest of the state from here. This is where you'll find the majority of the state's attractions, its entertainment and sports teams, as well as the heart of Indiana culture. You can't find a person from Indiana who isn't familiar with Indianapolis. If you visit, be sure to check out the roundabout capital of America just north of the city in Carmel. Indianapolis' spot is cemented and is highly unlikely to be threatened by other cities in the state. Iowa is the next state, and it is pretty similar to Indiana with its dynamic. The capital and largest city is Des Moines, and sits in a pretty centralized location within that state. In 2020, it had a population of 214,000, while second place Cedar Rapids had 137,000, and third place Davenport had 101,000. Des Moines is known for being the insurance capital of America due to being home to so many insurance companies. It is also famous for being the site of the first primaries of the U.S. presidential nomination season. Most Iowa cities and the state as a whole have suffered from the trend of Americans leaving rural areas for cities, especially younger, more educated people. So population growth overall has been slower in the cities here, but immigrants moving to the state has been a big factor in preventing it from losing population overall. Des Moines did have a nice little downtown area though, surprisingly more urban than I anticipated when I visited. A lot of Americans are sleeping on the Midwest. You might need to come check it out. This next one clearly dominates not only its home state, but also its entire region of the country, and that is none other than Boston, Massachusetts. Boston is the capital and largest city in Massachusetts, and the dominant city in the New England region of the United States. In 2020, Boston had a population of 675,647, while second place Worcester had 206,000, and third place Springfield had just under 156,000 people. But like many other previous states, one has to look at the metro population to understand the true scope of Boston's size. The metro had a 2020 population of over 4.9 million people, previously giving it a spot in the top 10 largest metros in America. But 2022 estimates say that Phoenix has knocked it from that spot. But even with that being said, Boston serves as the economic, cultural, and entertainment hub of New England. It is home to some of the most prestigious universities in the country, such as Harvard and MIT, and played a significant role in early U.S. history. Its combined statistical area extends into neighboring Connecticut and New Hampshire and includes the entire state of Rhode Island. Upon visiting here, you'll be taken back by the European-style streets, a far different experience than the grid pattern you're used to seeing in other cities. Also of note is the O'Neill Tunnel, the site of the massive Big Dig infrastructure project, which buried a major downtown expressway underground to restore the central business district. You don't think New England without thinking about Boston, so its dominant position in Massachusetts has been here since the beginning, and it is safe to say it will remain so. Now we go all the way down to the deep south, where we have Mississippi. The capital and largest city in this state is Jackson. In 2020, Jackson had a population of 153,701, which is down from its peak of over 200,000 in 1980. Second place Gulfport had just under 73,000, and third place South Haven, a suburb of Memphis, had over 54,000. Jackson's decline from 2010 to 2020 of 11.42% represented the largest population decline of any major American city during that period. However, on the metro area, Jackson did grow, just barely. Though South Haven and Gulfport are growing more quickly, they are unlikely to catch Jackson anytime soon. And in terms of metro area, things are even less likely to change. Despite the struggles of the capital city, the metro as a whole continues to be the center of economic activity for the state. In 2020, it had around 619,000 people, while the second largest metro of Gulfport, Biloxi, had 416,000. Outside of that, Jackson has no credible challengers to its position. The suburbs of Memphis and Mississippi are growing rapidly, but nowhere near enough to catch Jackson, so it shall remain the top dog in Mississippi. Now we arrive at what is perhaps the most contentious state on the list, and that is none other than the Buckeye State, Ohio. In Ohio, we have the big three C's: Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Columbus. Columbus is the state capital and has the largest city limits population of 905,748. Cleveland was second with 372,624, and Cincinnati came in third at 309,317. But in Ohio, we have another case where it's probably more accurate to use the metro populations, as Columbus controls a much larger percentage of the land area within its metro area than Cleveland or Cincinnati. When we talk metros, things get really close and really interesting. Cincinnati was first place with 2.249 million in 2020, while Cleveland was in second with 2.185 million, and Columbus was in third with 2.138 million. And to make things even more interesting, on the 2022 census estimates, Cincinnati was first with 2.258 million, Columbus was second with 2.161 million, and Cleveland was now third with 2.16 million. I'm actually in Ohio as I'm making this video, and if we're going off which one looks and feels the largest, it most certainly is Cleveland, as Cleveland traditionally was the city in Ohio and significantly larger in metro size than the other two. However, as it has declined from its peak population in the 1970s, Cincinnati has quietly caught it, and Columbus has become a straight-up boom town, bucking a broader trend of Americans fleeing the Rust Belt. Looking at current trends, Columbus is on pace to easily overtake Cincinnati as Ohio's largest metro by 2030, and Cleveland appears to be poised to either remain flat in growth or further decline by that point. I did a poll asking you guys on the channel which city was king of Ohio, and you all voted for Columbus. So Columbus it is. Columbus has now arrived from being a sleepy college town to now the king of Ohio, and it is taking its crown and likely to have a broader lead over Cincinnati and Cleveland by 2030. And now we head to Oklahoma, a state I visited this past summer. The capital and largest city in this state is Oklahoma City, quite fitting for the top spot in the state. In 2020, it had a population of 681,054, while second place Tulsa had 413,000 people. Norman, which is in a distant third and part of the Oklahoma City Metro, had 128,000 people. Oklahoma City is clearly on top here, with Tulsa as the only credible challenger. Looking at the current population trends, OKC is actually widening its lead over Tulsa, so its position is quite secure. Much of the culture and entertainment in Oklahoma will be found in the OKC area. Many will say the state is boring. However, I'd say it serves as a decent alternative to those looking to move to the Sunbelt, but want something cheaper and with more manageable traffic than the big Texas metros. The Bricktown area they had downtown looked pretty interesting, and there appeared to be a decent amount of dense developments nearby if you're a fellow millennial looking for some walkability. Check out the Scissortail Park as well, where they had this interesting looking sculpture. Oh, and Oklahoma does actually have a pro basketball team, and I suppose during football season you can switch it up to college football. This next one is Rhode Island. Rhode Island is the tiniest state in the union, oftentimes appearing so small on maps that its name can't even be printed over its land area. The capital and largest city by far is Providence at 190,000 people. Second place was Cranston at 82,934, and Warwick just behind at 82,823. Providence is clearly the top city in the state, the seat of government power, and home of its flagship university. Interesting fact about Rhode Island is that despite having 5 counties, it has no county governments. Instead, the entire state is incorporated, and the 39 municipalities in the state handle local affairs. The Providence Metro is actually the second largest in New England behind Boston, but is also itself included in the Boston Combined Statistical Area. Providence has no challengers to its dominance within its state. The next state is Tennessee and its capital of Nashville. In 2020, Nashville had a city population of 689,447, overtaking the now second place Memphis for the first time, which in 2020 had 633,104. Knoxville was the third largest in the state at around 190,000 people. Tennessee is an interesting one in that Memphis has been the largest and most dominant city and metro in the state for most of its history. However, as Memphis has declined, Nashville has risen. The core city of Memphis only has 10,000 more people today than it did in 1970, but its metro area has always posted positive growth with a 2020 population of 1.339 million. While Nashville's metro has become one of the new South boomtowns, exploding and surpassing Memphis on that front as well, with 2.014 million people. Memphis and Nashville both are home to a significant amount of Tennessee culture and history, but it is safe to say that in modern times, Nashville is now the dominant city in the state. Its current growth rate far outpaces Memphis, and it looks like it will continue to widen its lead in the foreseeable future. Up next is Utah, and you already know the capital city of Salt Lake City is king here, and it's not even close. Or is it? In fact, you've probably never heard of any of the other cities in the state besides Salt Lake. In 2020, Salt Lake City had a population of just under 200,000 people. However, an adjacent city called West Valley City had 140,000 people and is growing rapidly. The third place city of West Jordan is also adjacent to Salt Lake City and had 116,000 people in 2020. West Valley City was formed in 1980 from a collection of suburban neighborhoods just outside of Salt Lake City. So it's basically a suburb that probably should have been annexed by Salt Lake City more than anything. While West Jordan is an older 1950s suburb further to the south. Being that both of these cities are suburbs within the Salt Lake City area, it is safe to say that Salt Lake City dominates the state. But with most of Utah's population growth occurring in the suburbs rather than Salt Lake City proper, it will be interesting to see if West Valley City catches it in the future and how that dynamic might play out. But even with the difference in population growth, it doesn't appear that anything will be changing in Utah by 2030. So for now, Utah still revolves around Salt Lake City. The next state is West Virginia. The capital and largest city is Charleston, which had 48,864 people in 2020. Huntington was second with 46,842, and Morgantown was third with about 30,000 people. West Virginia is unique in that the entire state is in population decline, and has been for quite a while. Both Charleston and Huntington have been losing population for years and have occasionally swapped places as the state's largest city. In terms of metro area, Huntington is in first place with 376,000 people versus 210,000 in Charleston. However, Charleston functions as the chief city of the greater Charleston-Huntington Combined Statistical Area. This combined with its status as the state capital and location near the center of the state, gives it the nod of being the dominant city in this state. West Virginia is the only state where the dominant position is going to be dependent on which city loses population the slowest, rather than who's gaining population the fastest. Sad times in the mountain state. And last but not least, we have Wyoming, the least populous state in the Union. The capital and largest city is Cayenne, which had 65,132 people in 2020. Second place, Casper, had 59,038. And third place, Gillette, had 33,403. Interesting thing about Wyoming is that Casper is actually more centralized in the state, while Cayenne is near the southeast corner, yet Cayenne was chosen as the capital. Wyoming is known for its vast amount of federally owned land and the famous Yellowstone National Park. It is also known for being relatively empty and sparsely populated. The Union Pacific Railroad opened up Cayenne to business in 1867, but unlike neighboring Colorado to the south, there was no gold in those Wyoming hills, so there was never a population boom here. Cayenne is number one in growth, metro size, and city population in Wyoming, so its position is not in jeopardy anytime soon. Alright folks, there you have it, the alpha state capitals. Do you think any of the capital cities on this list are in danger of losing their spot over the next 10 or 20 years? Do you agree with Columbus being voted in as the king of Ohio? Why or why not? Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.